So welcome to another photobook critique. This time I'm dressed up a little bit like Las Vegas because we have this member, Sakura Miona, who's actually in Las Vegas for this photobook. And this is actually her first photobook, and we get to finally see what is in store for her. Now of course this isn't the first second gen. I even in fact reviewed last week's Shinichi Mai's photobook, which you can check out over here to see the full description of this. I say this is like the standard that every photobook should be. So if that piques your interest, go ahead and check it out if you haven't already. But today we're not talking about that. We're talking about this photobook right here, which is Hori Miona's photobook. Now this is the same photographer who shot Koji Hara's photobook, Shirashi Mai's photobook, and Watanabe Mayu's photobook. So this could be potential for something really good. And since those are shot in LA, I want to see how this works out in Las Vegas. A new area. I don't know if the photographer knows that well of the area. Apparently they know a lot about LA, so let's see how much they know about Las Vegas. So let's open this up and see what's inside. I will be able to open it, look at it fully, be able to analyze it, and then give you guys a critique on it and give you a first impressions that I had, and then afterwards at the end be able to give a full recommendation whether to get this photobook or not. Alright, so I just looked through it and my first impressions were that this is actually very short, and this feels like it could have been shot in 1 or 2 days max. There's not a whole bunch of content, but there are a lot of shots that are in the same place, just in different areas. So this is all the time they had. Maybe a card got corrupted or something bad happened. But I feel like maybe this could have been extended 1 more day and we would got more possibilities with what's in here. But I will be able to give my full recommendations at the end after I critique the photobook, go through pictures that I see, that I like, that I don't like, and the things that I notice about it that really stick out. So remember, at the end of all this, I will be able to give a recommendation on who should pick this up and generally what I think about the photobook overall. So as we always start out with, we start off with the front cover. Now to say, this front cover is actually a contender for one of my favorite photos in this photobook. This is probably second or third favorite in here. This is very stylistic and says a lot about her. I mean, she has like her full-on smile in here and it looks great. And plus this is really high key with the white fur coat. We have the clear skin. We have the light coming in from the background. We also have this white over here from the window. So everything is generally white, and then we have the black hair with the black eyes kind of making the contrasting points, making this image a nice high-key image. And plus we get some shape and we get a nice smile on the face. And looking at the back, this picture is kind of small, but looking at this photo right here, this will actually say a lot about the photobook because there is a lot in this location in here, so expect to see this a lot. And on the inside we just have the black and white, and the other side is the same thing, which I think is really cheap. Looking at this, I think, why would they just like have black and white? This goes to show that maybe they didn't have a lot of photos to put in the photobook. I mean, even look at Shirashi Mai's, that costs 1800 yen, this costs 1800 yen, but yet the inside cover is better. So that does knock it down a few points, showing that they, instead of putting a good image in there, maybe like a long image, or maybe 2 images front and back, that they decided to go black and white exact copy of the front cover and back cover. So opening it up, we can see that it's a small image once again, and actually looking at it close up, you can see that's actually pretty cute, and I wish they had it a little bit bigger. I know there's a stylistic choice in this one, so I'm not going to complain too much about it, but I kind of do wish I could see it a little bit better. And I mean, I could just pick it up and just look at it, really. Now we start off with some in and outs, you know, some classic in and outs, which makes me wonder, did they go to California and then eventually go to Las Vegas? Because in other images, she has a shirt that says Los Angeles on it. So I don't know if they were like, they got off on the airport in Los Angeles and then went to Las Vegas, which I don't know why they would do that. But then I realized, oh hey, In-N-Out is in fact in other places now. It's not just in California. So I imagine there might be a location in Las Vegas. Which, I mean, good on her, because in these photos we can kind of see her character more. And this isn't so much like about like, oh look how good these images are. This is kind of like, hey look, here's her in a new environment. Next up, we have her in Roxy's diner. I don't know exactly where this is. Maybe this was in a movie, but she's there, and this is the Los Angeles shirt I was talking about. I don't really know why she's wearing a Los Angeles shirt in Las Vegas, but I mean, that's her. And again, these are more personality images. Like this one, we've seen that face before when she's eating, and then we have like a nice little shy smile on that one, and some eating ones, which I notice a lot of people appreciate in photo books. And here's one that I like because this one's off-camera flash lighting, and we have like a nice comparison of like, this is America. Here's a big old milkshake compared to her. I mean, this is like bigger than her face. So it's a nice little contrast of seeing the different sizes that there are versus herself. Next up, we have this one, which is a little bit more dreamy looking, and I actually like the style that this is going for. The makeup in this, I think, really helps out in this image. I feel like without the makeup, this wouldn't be as strong of an image. And plus the wardrobe kind of fits along with the makeup, so that's a nice little combination. But we also have the merry-go-round, which actually adds to this whole dreamy looking thing, which you can find in magazines. And plus the face that she's holding is actually a lot to do with this and showing like the kind of fashiony, dreamy image. So in that point, I think this is actually really good. And I have to say, this one really threw me off when I first saw it. I thought this image was like shrink down the wrong way. I thought it was like from the bottom up, so it scrunches everything down. Thankfully, it wasn't like that, and it's actually just a magic mirror that does this effect. So it's fun to see this and adds more personality. Next up, we're going to talk about something that's I've seen a lot in this photo book, which is not my favorite thing. It's this right here where it like gets the image and then like copies it a couple times. It seems very like preset in a photo arranging software. So there are some arranging software that you could make like photo books on or photo albums, and there are some presets on there that people use if they don't know a lot about how to use the effects, or if they want to make things a little more complicated and make it a little more stylistic. But this seems like one of those presets, and that doesn't really scream professionalism. Sure, they wanted to make it a little bit more fun, but since it looks like a preset, it actually deters from it. But I do have to say, for this image right here, I really do like the whole color theme that's going on around here, and plus she's wearing rollerblades, so it's very unique and actually stands out. On this one, I think this one could have worked a little bit better if the background thing was more blurry, and plus we kind of see the shadow of the person right there. That's kind of distracting because that doesn't seem intentional. Again, it's always better to be intentional if there is a shadow, as we've seen in other photo books with Wakatsuki especially, where the photographer's shadow was actually helping with the lighting. Meanwhile, this one just looks like it was there by accident. Next, we have this sequence of images that really just adds personality, because I think having these all next to each other really doesn't benefit from everything. I feel like maybe having only two, one big one over here and another big one over here, would have helped more than having all four of them. Maybe having this serious one and this goofy one would have been a nice juxtaposition, and having one and then the other on the other page, having it kind of like, oh hey, here's serious, but here's goofy at the same time. Next up is this image right here, which has been previewed before, and it's actually one of my favorite images in the photo book. And the reason is because of these colors. This brown really goes well with this blue over here, and plus having the sun behind her and having it shine through the clothes actually add a really nice effect to this and make it much more stylistic. And plus I really like how they have this little one here in the corner, and it actually adds a little bit more to the story of this one. I feel like it's a little distracting, but it doesn't bother me too much, and I think it was there with purpose, as we can see by having the same clothes and being generally in the same area. It is meant to be there, and it actually works out pretty well. Next up, we have this one over here, which is a little bit more stylistic than the other one because we have a pure blue background, so this really looks like one of those outside studio shots. As we can see, the sun is coming from the back and making the face come in complete shadow, making it look nice and soft, especially with the hat covering for that extra definition. And again, the makeup being really good, as well as the wardrobe. Whoever did the makeup and wardrobe did a fantastic job on this. And that's not just for this image, it's for like all of them in general. Next up, this is our transition page. I'm not too sure what it says here. If someone could let me know what it says, or maybe like give like a very brief summary of like why this helps transition into the next thing, I'd really appreciate. Next, we have this image right here, which, I mean, I may be a sucker for good bokeh, but I do like the bokeh in this image. I feel like having her very sharp and then having the background nice and far away makes it always look good. And I think the cropping is really good on this, giving plenty of headroom, plenty of spaces on the side and over here, Even though the cropping is a little weird, I feel like it added to its benefit, and being able to crop it is one of those creative freedoms that should be able to help like it did in this image. Now when I look at these images, all I can think is she must have been itchy like right after laying in the grass for this. I mean, in this one it kind of looks like, oh man, is there a bug right there? And this one she's like relaxed, so they're probably like the other way around. She was probably relaxed, and then she like heard something, and then she like looked to see if there was a bug. And this one, I'm not too sure what to think about the cropping on this one. I don't know whether it's good that the hat isn't there all the way, or if it's bad that the toes aren't there all the way. I mean, we do know that there are feet there, and we do know that there's a hat there, so maybe it isn't the worst thing ever. And something that I do notice is the photographer has her face away from the lights, giving that nice flat lighting on her face because it's in shade. Here's a complaint. I passed a lot of images of the same place, like literally her just standing in the grass, laying in the grass, sitting in the grass for like 10 pages. Then we come over here, which is like in a different area, and it's her squatting in two of the images in the same thing, and it really doesn't help much in the photo book. It doesn't really say a lot. It kind of feels like these are extra images we had. We don't have a lot of images to put in the photo book, so let's just put these in there. Skipping even more of the same images in the grass. Until finally we get to these over here, which is more at the pool, which is at the same place. So it looks like they're around the same area for like half of this photo book. And by around the same area, I mean literally in the place where they're probably staying. So going real quick about this image, I like this because it gives personality. I mean, even the light isn't that bad in this image. Like having it full on to the sun, and then her going like, ah, the sun's too strong, it actually helps out in personality and in lighting. And then we have this image, which kind of feels weird because there's two images and they're relatively almost the same. We have this image over here, which is her splashing, but then over here we have another one of splashing, and they're almost the same thing, with her arms being a little bit lower over here. And look, there's even like the same sun glare in both of these images. So I'm not too sure why they had a big one and then a small one instead of the traditional, hey, here's 1 second apart, but like right next to each other. I don't know if this works as well, which I mean, the other one doesn't work well either. And then we have some cute images, but then again, the body looks weird compared to the face, but they still are pretty cute. And then we have even more of the same area, but except with a different wardrobe, as we've seen throughout like half of this photo book so far. And this time we have a bit of ripped jeans over here, kind of adding a little bit more personality. This one feels a little bit more otonna than the other ones before. And this is probably because of the face she's making, the pose that she's holding, and the ripped pants. It kind of like leads you in here because there's a nice break between the jeans, kind of showing like all of a sudden skin, but yet not showing too much, just kind of like alluring to it. Which I mean kind of says a lot about Hori's personality. Next we have this image, and I actually like this image because it is interesting because it isn't just a plain background. We have this light coming with a nice stream right here at a diagonal angle, and we even have some of it leaking onto the body, kind of giving off that, hey, this is in a real environment, we didn't just add this later on. And the pose in this with the white fur kind of gives off a nice impression. This is very much like fashion magazine like. Although I don't know what she's doing with her finger right here. It kind of looks like she's like in a scratching position. And something that I do notice is this hand is in motion, which means that the shutter speed was low. This was probably at, my guess is like 30 shutter speed, 40, because it doesn't capture all of the motion in the hand. Which I mean, that doesn't really distract too much. It isn't that noticeable if you look at it real quick, but then when like you stare at it for more than like 2 seconds, you do notice it. And then we get a second shot of the front cover, and I actually do like the front cover more than this one, so maybe this one shouldn't have been added. And then we move on to this image after a couple of these images, and we see that it's a little bit blurry because her nose is in focus and like a little bit of her eye is in focus. If her eye was in focus, this would have helped out more with the image, making it seem a little bit less soft. And going through a lot of these, you can tell that she's a little bit goofy, and as you can see over here, you can see that she's goofy, but she can sometimes pull off the serious face. There are other ones which the face is better, but it's generally all almost the same thing. It's nothing too interesting. Because we go to this one, which I don't think this is the sun. There's too much sudden shadow over here for me to feel like it's the sun or say confidently it's the sun. It might be the sun, but it doesn't really feel like it. It feels like this is way too blue and this is way too orange. Which in fact actually go well together. Having her skin the same color as this light and having her clothes the same color as the shadows actually really complement each other well. and plus having the bit of sand on here kind of like spilling on there, kind of like the light spilled on her, is actually a really nice touch. So this one is actually a nice creative decision and a nice creative photograph. Next we move on to more fun images, and this one I have to say is my favorite of the little bunch of these. This one is just like super cute, and photographer's perspective, it is actually very personality driven, and having her face like that, a little bit less traditional, a little bit more her personality, actually adds a lot to the photograph. Next is this image, which I feel like if they cropped a little bit more like right here, this could have been maybe a little bit dangerous, but maybe could have added to the photo. Because right here they give us a little hint that yes, in fact, she is still wearing something. But if it was cropped a little bit more, then it could have been like, oh, is she? It could have been like more mysterious, adding a little bit more to the photo. But then again, maybe that decision came to management and they're like, yeah, just include a little bit on that so people know that she's wearing something. Because over here, there's no idea. It's just a towel covering and then her covering her face as well. So kind of like giving a covering up image. So maybe cropping it a little bit would have been like, oh, I'm covering up, but there's still something that there is to expose. Kind of having that like double-sided characteristic. Next we have these images which come out of nowhere like right after that, and it's her walking outside with the sunset, kind of like at golden hour. The sun goes down over here, so it's a little bit more when the sun is below golden hour. But these images in fact aren't that bad. I kind of don't like how she's walking this way, and you can obviously tell that she walked back over here and then started posing. It's a little distracting seeing the process in that, but having maybe this one and then this one would have been better, or maybe in fact this one and this one. Although I like this one more, I feel like these two would have told a better story. Next we move on to my favorite image in the photo book, and it's this one right here, because this is actually very, very stylistic. Now the reason I like this photo so much is because of three things. Number one is because of the color. As you can see, the colors are very muted and everything is around the same color, including the skin, the curtains, the background over here, and the clothes that she's wearing. Number two is because of what she's wearing, whether that's the hair that's styled, the makeup, or the clothes that she's wearing. It's very, very much in a style, and it's very unique. And number three is because of the pose that she's holding. This is very S-curve, but yet not to the extreme as we've seen before. This is still keeping to Hori Miona's body style. And plus this hand right here in that position actually looks really nice. Again, showing the side of the hand, not showing the full on front of it. Even over here we have a little bit more S-curves. As we can see, it's thanks to her being on her elbows, and it's thanks to maybe like scooching up a little bit, or maybe putting the other leg to the side, kind of scooting this out a little. All these little factors help a lot. I would say this one's super blurry. I think that's shutter speed on this one. And looking at the other one from like a little bit of a higher camera angle, we have this one, where as we can see, it matters a little bit more about where your elbows are, or maybe like how your leg is positioned, or where the camera is. To see, it's not so easy to pull it off. Next we have these images, which is very stylistic and kind of go out of nowhere, but actually really show off the makeup and the hair and the wardrobe. Because as you can even see from these sleeves right here, this is actually a very nice wardrobe, and plus the makeup. I mean, look at the eyes, look at the detail to even like right here. It's a lot of detail that goes into this, so maybe this was shot for the makeup artist, and then they're like, we need more photos for the photo book, let's add these in there. Because it's literally just these two pages. I wish there was more of this, like I really do wish there was more of this. Next up we have random shots in a hallway. I don't really know what the purpose of this was, but I will admit, I do like the headdress that she's wearing in this image. It is very much personality, just like the rest of the photo book is, a little bit more personality than it is about like, dang, look how good these images are, look how good she looks. And this one being on camera flash lighting doesn't really bother me that much. It bothers me a little bit more of this one because you can actually see the shadow back here. And it's a little distracting, especially with that wide angle in this tight space. But in this image, it works out well. And as you guys know, I say you have to finish off with one of your strongest images, more specifically second strongest, or in that series, the strongest one. And in this case, I do have to say that this is in fact one of the strongest images. This is very stylistic, and I really like where the sun's coming in. It gives off a nice stylistic choice, making it all hard shadows, but yet making her have the half lighting on her face. But yet it looks really well. The wardrobe really works in this image with the white background. Having the nice bright pastel colors on her actually works really well. And I think with that lighting, the wardrobe looks fantastic. So a lot of props to the photographer or editor or producer for having this as the last image. And then after that image, we have like interview and history about her, and a couple of images that are in fact in the photo book, which it looks like it has like the wardrobe that she wore. So that's actually pretty cool that they have that, and it seems like they picked up from like designers. And yeah, that's the photo book. It seems like it's super short. I got that impression that it's short, and I feel like there was stuff missing. I don't know if like a whole day was missing, but I feel like this could have been longer, and if it got another day of shooting, this could have really benefited from that. I didn't really get a Las Vegas vibe from this. There was that one shot in the In-N-Out and the other one in the diner, but that's really the strongest thing I got from Las Vegas. And honestly, that could have been in California if I didn't know any better. So other than like the diner, the In-N-Out, those big rocks, nothing really landmarkish is there. When you think Las Vegas, you think maybe casinos, you think maybe a night out, you think some food, you think like a nice hotel. You didn't really get that vibe from this. I mean, there's palm trees, but then again, California has palm trees too, so maybe you could have thought California. So nothing really screamed Las Vegas in this, which is always a negative in my opinion when it comes to photo books in different locations. I wish this screamed a little bit more Las Vegas, and a little bit more about like, hey, this is Hori Miona's photo book in Las Vegas, and then it is about like, hey, here's like a couple of pictures of Hori Miona at a weird place where there's grass. So in that aspect, it did get negative points. I wish it was longer. I wish there was more images, adding another day, maybe having it like at the strip. I don't know what the circumstances were that you couldn't get all the images or even more images for this photo shoots, but I think it really would have benefited from another day, or maybe like another 2 locations. Especially that break in between where it was on that grassy place in front of the little, they looked like condos. I think that really detracted from it. And having so many with like maybe one outfit and then another outfit, sitting, laying down, standing up, really distracted it. And especially the pool being right next to it kind of shows that they had to do everything in this one area real quick, and they just had to go and rush through it. In that aspect, it does feel a little bit rushed. But the other images that were there, in fact, were actually pretty good. You notice that I talked about like 4 different images that really stuck out to me that I thought were my favorite of the photo book. In general, are really good images. So this comes to my final conclusion of what I think about the photo book. Again, short, could have used more content of different locations. Wardrobe was good, makeup was good, hair was good, lighting was good. A couple blurry images, but that didn't really bother me. And being the small size and small page count, it doesn't really help. A couple of layout things were a little weird too. So who do I recommend this photo book to? Well, I recommend it, of course, if you're a fan of Hori Miona. And if you are really curious about this and want to pick it up, then I recommend getting it. But if you're just kind of curious, I don't think you should get it. But if you want to support her, I definitely recommend getting it then. And also, quick little insight to the fans' perspective. If you want to see some cool images of her in a swimsuit, then I recommend getting it. But coming from a photographer's perspective, it isn't the best photo book for sure. It isn't the worst one I've seen, but it is in the lower ranks. Although there were some images that I thought were really good, and I feel like could have been in a magazine, as I said before, for other photo books. So if those individual photos were there, I'd be like, oh man, those are really good photos. But then combining it with the rest of the images kind of make it dull out a little bit. So nothing against Hori Miona, beautiful girl. I feel like she wasn't accentuated as much in this photo book as she could have been. I feel like there could have been a little bit more opportunity for her to shine a little bit more, and shining with the location and shining herself. So if you have this photo book, let me know what you think about this. Again, looking at it in person is 10,000 times better than looking at it online. And if you are really curious, again, pick this up if you're really curious. And don't forget to support Hori Miona as well as Nogizaka as well as the other girls. And thank you for watching this video about this photo book. Hopefully you enjoy this critique. You can go ahead and like it if you liked it. You can go ahead and check out the past 2 critiques that I did on Wakatsuki and on Shinichi Mai. Shinichi Mai is good for the standard of photo books, and Wakatsuki's is art. So go ahead and look at those. So it looks like Watanabe Rika's photo book is next, so expect that photo book critique to come out as well. Again, if you guys have any questions, you can leave it down below. Any opinions that you want from me, or any information at all, you can leave it down below. And as I say every single time, thank you all for watching.